Yeah, no, I think one of the things I just want to say for a COVID thing is we've set up this space now. This is a 63 square meter space behind me, and you can see one corner of it. It has a lot of art. So we have Singh twins, inquisitive art by Rupi, Urban Agali, it's all here. We've had some visitors now. We've had Sonia Thammi, Kamalpreet, Bhupinder Bhasin. We've had a few come, but I see this as a research space. You've got everything that you've got in the British Museum, the Museum of London, Victoria. I've got everything here, so you can see it all. The coins from the British Museum are behind. There's artifacts. All the books you'd ever want in a library, probably similar to yours, I have a copy of. So we've had visitors come, researchers, they can use this space. Because I think for me, I thought I was in with the Gurdwara before, so, and I've had lots of Gurdwara Pradhans come and to my house. This was all in a Babaji's room before. My Babaji's room was much smaller, but just full of books, and then our prayer area, right? And then a lot of this stuff was in the loft. And then pre-COVID, about a year before COVID, I put the planning permission in, and I said, rather than build a house in our garden and sell it off and retire, I'll build what I want to build. And my wife's happy because all this stuff's outside of the house now. I can just go back here, and I've spent 2 years in COVID here, work from home.
It must have been a wonderful little space to have during COVID.
Yeah, pick up a book whenever you want to do work or little history. And I do see it as a space to use for our community. It's accessible from its own access from the side. It doesn't need to come through the house. It's got everything we need. So, and I just want people to use it as a base. The gurdwaras, the local schools, they all offered it, but they all go quiet when it gets hard work, and they all go hard. When I just asked for a lock on the door and a CCTV, and I'm still waiting 12 years for my local gurdwara to sort that out. So I just built it myself, and I just thought, yeah, so now they're coming in, they're saying, oh, you can put it at the Gurdwara. I said, what am I supposed to put in here now? And the visitors who come now, it's much more, I learn a lot from them because they're looking at the stuff, they're putting their own views on the stuff I've got. We're dusting off books that I probably haven't touched for a year or two, or 10 years. And it's good, I enjoy it. And I just say to people, you've got a desk, you've got a chair, Wi-Fi's here. So that's what it is. It's a little history museum. And people can just use it to try and move forward with things,
No, definitely. But could you explain the tours that you do in Europe at the moment, and then also the tours that you do in London?
So what we have about 8 to 10 different walking tours in London, and they're our like bread and butter. I can put those on every 2 weeks, and every midweek anyone asks me, I'm in London anyway, and I'll just run a walking tour. So when I run the tour, I'm looking for 20, 25 people to attend. Then Ajuni Harkiran can support it. We have our media, Simran can come in, Urban Akali can come in. And then if it's a certain theme, then the experts join us. That's given. And we do an International Women's Day tour as well. You can imagine that the Sikh women's story is memorialized in London. There's locations, there's little bits and pieces, there's photos in squares, and you would never even thought of that. Never, ever have thought that. We have just a pure tour, and I have to break it into two now because there's so much that I've gathered, Sikh women's history, military history, about 3 tours, Chelsea, Westminster, 2 different tours. So London is pretty much active and ready to go. Just started with the Tower Hamlets East End tour because these things are now researched, so we can do that. And then our UK tours are generally Brighton, Kent is an interesting tour, and then Oxford. So we'll go around the UK, but like a day trip, and Isle of Wight comes under that one as well. We sometimes have to fit that into a weekend, and then our European ones. So we have 3 to 4 hours, which is a walking tour, 1 day, which will be our day trip ones, enough for a day, and then our weekend ones are around Europe. So you get into Paris, you get into Marseille or Monaco, you get into Malaga. Malta I haven't done yet, but or Northern, and basically with those, I just say to people, the tour bits are these parts, the rest of it, these are your options. You go into these markets, go and eat here, do your own thing with your families, but for 3 hours on the Sunday or 2 hours on the Saturday, we're going to do this bit, and I'll blend it in with a kind of a weekend break, or they can do, and I've learned that it can't just be history all the time, They get to know people, they want to, and even on the UK stuff, we do that as well, so just mix it in and just make it something memorable that they'll remember, and in the London ones, leave them somewhere where they can spend their money, because they're all kind of itching to do things. So I say, look, you're near wherever you want to go now. It's finished at 2:00. You can go, So we kept them 3 hours. I used to do mega tours like 5-6 hours, but people worried that, you know, they take a day to recover. And I was like, mate, it's not that much walking. But you do learn in the tours that there's a funny thing is cars. Punjabis are not really good at walking. I've understood that now. So the pace really drops the walk, you know, so walking and food, we do no free food, no food like that. I say bring your own. And some people bring for 20 and I'm like, I didn't ask you to bring a langar for everyone, you know, just, you know, because you know you from the Gurdwara. You just want to be nice. And they just said, oh, I bought this for everyone. I was like, they should have their own. I'm just really conscious of the allergy situation. And so I just say to people, look, make your own arrangements. But if we go anywhere, then at least you're catered for in the right way. I'd hate for anything like that to happen on my tour. But it's a risk that, you know, people in Gurdwaras manage because they probably don't have langar if they've got dairy allergy because of butter. You know, I just don't think those spaces work in that way, you know. But on a tour, I have to make sure that, you know, we can just finish at a Pret or a Costa and they know what they can have, which is labeled up, you know. And then on our European tours, it's about finding the vegan restaurants, finding the vegetarian, because even in France, Belgium, I've done all the research to make them Amritdhari friendly. So no Amritdhari on my tour should have a problem, right? So I know all the vegan restaurants on near my tour. So then you don't even have to worry, you know. There's not even milk in it. Don't worry about it. Thing come, you know. And I'm really conscious of that because I know other people run tour groups, but I can't have alcohol anywhere near my stuff because we're not going there to top up on duty free. This is I am associated with a Gurdwara, I know that. So I can't risk it, you know, and I've always said it's Amritdhari friendly. And for those people, I just say, well, try just going vegetarian for a day. It's all right. You can survive. It'll be all right. You know?
It's not that hard. Yeah.
Yeah. You know,
no, definitely.
You know, you don't have to eat snails or anything.
Oh God, no, or frogs' legs for that matter. Yeah. What is your advice for those wanting to get into a similar space? Like, I know for yourself, it kind of naturally evolved over time and things went from kind of one to the other and so on. But in terms of trying to get into this space, whether that is researching or finding artifacts that are all over the place or even doing tours or whatever, like, what would you say or what advice would you give?
I've given this a little bit of thought because I want people to do this. I'm not a brand that wants to keep this for myself. There is no money in it, right? So the first thing you've got to do is enjoy what you do. If you like telling stories, if you like reading, if you want to bring out those stories and help the next generation, then this kind of, if you go to Oxford University, a lot of students run tours on the Saturday. And they're just reading textbook stuff and they're going around pointing out at colleges and they've got groups following them around. And you know what? It's good money for them, you know, great. The difference for us is it helps rather than when I was younger, I think the lectures were done by non-Sikhs, you know, that I attended, you know, he's a specialist. I think Peter Bance was the first one to break that for me. And even then, most people think Peter Bance is white.
Yeah, no, they do. When I see his name, I'm like, I think I first saw his name in a print book and I went, Peter Bance talking about Sikhi, what's this? Yeah. And then I saw him this was way back in 2011 or 12. There was a BBC documentary about, it must have been something to do with like Maharaj Dalip Singh or something. And he was on that and it was Peter Bance. And I was like, how is this Singh called Peter?
Yeah, like he's explained that now, so that's all right. But you know, like, but I didn't, you know, when I was younger, I didn't have, because you're East London or whatever, you don't have the confidence to approach these people, right? So Amandeep Madra, of course I know who he was. I've seen his work, I've bought his books. I wouldn't go up to him and have a conversation, right? I've never had a conversation with him. Devinder Toor was the same because they're busy people when they're working on these events. And but then some people have helped me along the way. Kamal Roop definitely one. You know, Elizabeth Weigler watched a lot of our tours and helped. You know, she's in California, Dr. Nirvigar Singh. But what I say to young people is, someone said to me that start small and go. If you're quality, they will come to you, you know? And rather than, when I was doing these tours at Karamsad with the Punjabi school, I thought I needed ASHT or UKPHA above me to guarantee the people coming, right? That's what I thought. So I've reached out to them, I emailed them. I didn't get a response from any of them for years, right? which was fine because they're busy people themselves. You understand now, right? And a lot of the people who give me moral support have never attended a tour. And I don't want moral support. I said, I'm confident enough to do a tour. What I want is people to come on the tour and then help me develop it or understand it. So any young person out there, I said, one, enjoy what you do, because then it's just like going to football or doing whatever. You're going to enjoy it. You're going to get satisfaction from it. I like watching people learn. Simple, right? Then I think with the recent, BLM stuff and everything going on, museum spaces are looking to reinterpret their collections. If you have something to offer, then start volunteering. The volunteering will open up opportunities. I now get asked, what is your fee? I was like, flavin' heck 10 years ago. If someone said to me, what is your fee? I would be desperate for it. Now I don't need the fee because of my work. So I say, what can you afford, or how does it work with other people? But for a young person, you have to be a specialist. Don't be a generalist on anything. Be specialist. And then, all these opportunities will start opening up for you. And I don't even know what I'm a specialist in. I think it's just geographical history. You could take me around London and I could tell you the London history, then the Sikh history, then the Indian history, and the Fijian history. But I've grown up reading that history. Peter Ackroyd's The History of London. You just have to read it, and then all these spaces come alive. But I've worked there as well. I've been to their archives. For me, they're all just stories. But for young people, I just think there's so much opportunity out there if you've got this kind of degree. But find a space and make it your own. At the moment, I don't think I've come across any other organized Sikh history tour group, right? And I think if someone wants to reach out and say, I want to do it, I will help you. I'll give you the stuff you need to do it. But you have to learn the hard knocks of life as well. Punjabi community is really hard to work with because, and I think the reason is they think, it's only 10, 11, 12, 13 pounds I charge. And the only reason I charge them is because I want you to commit to it. And then I can give a donation to the people who've given the access, because they need money to survive. Churches aren't free. Museum collections, need money. And we just reset, and those open up opportunities. But for a young person, if you said to me, I want to work in Sainsbury's or I want to run tours in the summer season, I'd say do tours in the summer season. You'll definitely make 70, 80 pounds a day and for 3 hours, and you'll enjoy yourself and you'll be learning, do it, just do it and start. You can do it with your friends first, £5 each or whatever, and see what goes. But that's how I did it. But I had that Punjabi school audience, to do that. London is easy because of Voice to Travel. I don't know what it's like outside, London, but all of the museums, I think now they would welcome you. Write professionally to these places, await a response, and keep that communication channel open. I now get lots of emails that I was kind of yearning for 10 years ago. Now it's like, what do you think? Can you help us with this? Which is fantastic. For me, it's really nice. And that's a long journey. But for a young person now to do it, I think it'll be an easier journey now, because the archives are there. They want you to volunteer. They want you to interpret. And then, you know what? You'll be curating this stuff, because they'll want to, once they understand it, they'll bring it forward.
And there's also, just personally speaking, there are vast quantities of information
I see your
online.
stuff regularly, and I'm like, wow, some of it I've already got, and I'm like, I haven't even put it out yet, and that's fine. But I've got sections of the website I want to develop and do, but it is hard work. How much time back office takes,
Oh God.
Phenomenal amount, right? And I know you edit this as well. So.
Just even the reading and the research of putting just a bit of text together is long enough. But then doing tours, doing things like this, it takes time. Just
and people did say to me, like, my mum always says to me, "Hun kar liya, hun bas kar." They think I do the tour once, kar liya, hun fir kyun karna, right? But they don't understand that for some people in England, that's their job, doing tour guides, and they make good money out of it, they can pay their bills with it, and that's good. And Stephen Barker does that, and he can have a life doing it, and he's a retired teacher, or retired. So I think there's options there, but I think for young people is find your space. I can think of so many different tours that people could do. Imagine, you could even do, I reckon, I'm just thinking of, like the young audience now, they go into Bhangra music so quickly, right? And that's the way they learn Punjabi. And every university I go to, it's all about, Tuesday night, whatever they do. But if you did a, what was Bhangra like in the 80s and just did a tour of the venues that people used to go to, it would bring out so many stories,
I reckon, especially now with the re-emergence of the daytimers, I think if you did a daytimers walking tour of
Hippodrome, Ministry of Sound, whatever, just
you'd kill it. Because I think one thing that you've brought up, or one thing that I've picked up on from the work you're doing, and I guess similarly with UKPHA, Peter Bance, and all of these other organizations and individuals, is that they just bringing, and I say our history in like a very open collective term, but they're bringing our history to the forefront. And as soon as it's there, people do take to it. And I think that's right. Like, as in, if you did a walking tour of the Punjabi music scene in the 80s, people would take to it because it's our history.
Yeah, it's our history. And, we grow and people evolve. And I think, like, when I ran my tours in the early days, we only had 9 on a tour. And then on the morning, 4 would drop out, so I'm down to 5. So then things have got better for us in terms of numbers. But I do, if people listen to this, I do want them to appreciate that you have to be professional. Just being organized and professional will get you halfway where you want to be in life, right? So that means respond back. If you're going to book a ticket, then book the ticket and commit to it. That means, there was once I had 3 generations of an intergenerational tour, but they said my Bibi's in a wheelchair. I said, you know what? I want your Bibi to come. I'll do a step-free itinerary. Everywhere's going to be step-free. So instead of Sloane Street Station, it's going to be Victoria. Then from there, we're going to do step-free, the church and the museum step-free. But your youngest and the mum and the Bibi, you can all come together. And you know what? I'll make it a good day, but you're going to be part of the tour. So I've changed the whole tour around. I've done everything. Everyone else has turned up. And on the morning, they text back, oh, we forgot we've got tuition today. Right? So I was just like, so I can't take these kind of requests anymore because, I've had other people, I get a lot of inquiries, work with this group. So I've learned to play tennis. So I say, okay, you said to me you want a tour. I need this from you. So I put the ball back in their court on Gmail. So when you give me this, I'll proceed to base 2, and then you don't hear of them again. I just need a date. Can you give me a date that you can commit 10 people to come? And then that doesn't happen. Then I have another one where I worked with another organization and they critical, it must be done for their funding. We need a walking tour done in March, March is not a good month to be doing walking tours when it's snowing, right? So I said, look, I'll do it. I put it all on, but I said, just to be safe, I'll move it into the mainstream space. I'll put it on my Facebook. So when you organize your 15 people to come, then I'll add in my 10 or 12. So 3 months we've been organizing this tour, right? The date has been booked for 3 months. A week before, oh, sorry, I'm in Croatia on holiday. I'm like,
you're not helping anyone.
So what I feel is I've learned what it's like for a small business. Small businesses must get knocked left, right, and center all the time. And this, because I've tried to professionalize it, and people might assume it's a business. A lot of people think I do this full time. I'm like, mate, you think running tours me full time? Yeah. I've got bills to pay, man.
Yeah, I've got a life to look after.
Yeah, your £13 ain't going to pay my electricity bill next month,
Yeah.
So, but the good thing is, so I've just learnt this stuff, and you learn what the rules of engagement are. And I've just learnt to play this way, to say to people, I'll listen. I can listen to your histories, but you've got to realize my one is fact checked. Your granddad story from the Bind is not fact checked. The amount of Udham Singh stories I get on my tours. Everyone's met Udham Singh.
I remember he came up on Udham Singh came up in the Peter Bance podcast, obviously because of his history in England, and he said the same thing. He goes, everyone and their dog has a story about Udham Singh, but obviously with people like yourself and Peter Bance, they verified and fact checked some of these stories. So he was sharing.
When I did a tour for Sikh, Harinder Singh Sikh came, and I said, Baji, look, do whatever you want, and he wanted the Udham Singh experience, So yes, first night, Brixton Prison, hanged at Pentonville Prison, Caxton Hall, Mornington Crescent, Artillery Passage. These are verified. Not you know, like Barking, all these other areas where someone's granddad said he came there, he came there. I said, yeah, but just give me a date when. And they're saying like 1943. I said, he was hanged in 1940. You know?
He's dead. Yeah, yeah.
So then there was all these, you know, like Irish Sikh connections from East London, West. I said, I totally understand all of this and it's fine, but I can't run a tour based on stories someone told you, you know. But he was interested. I thought this, since that Amazon film came out, the Udham Singh tour could work, but it's just so scattered around London. It's just not easy to do. You know, so I have to weave it into different parts. You know? For me, when I watched it, I just thought the amount of time about the Jallianwala Bagh was the emotional thing. That's why people remembered that they thought it was good, because they spent nearly a full hour on it. Whereas in Gandhi and every other film, it's 20 seconds or 30 seconds.
But I even remember asking Amandeep Madra about whether Udham Singh had any connection to do with Jallianwala Bagh.
It's mixed sources, you know.
And he's pretty much like, nah, from the sources that I can see, Udham Singh is in East Africa at the point of Jallianwala Bagh happens. And I'm like, well, if that is verified.
Yeah. But the problem, you know, with anything to do with Udham Singh, it's so many aliases, so many names, so many different, it's hard to work in that way. But I think when I was in America, the short part of Sikh, his presence in America is interesting to them because they don't have this deep, rich history in America. You know, they keep coming out with it now with Sond and a few other things going on, but nothing like what the UK has in terms of artifacts and anything. So, you know, he was there for a small period, wasn't he? And then he may have raised 2 children there with some, and, you know, that lineage may have continued. And I do sometimes, you know, on my tours, I want people to come to learn something new, not to reinforce their own thing about everything, you know. So I'll show you things that for the first time you won't have even acknowledged, you know, or even knew of. And that's what I'd like the children or kids to come to start to evolve, you know. If I wanted to do Kohinoor and Udham Singh type stuff, I'll just walk around Caxton Hall and go to Tower Hill, and that's it, you know. But there's 80 other places, each with a different story, you know. I can do you a legal activism tour in London, you know, with the judges, the Inns of Court, Khushwant Singh, Motta Singh, Parliament Square, and all of the legal stuff we've overcome through acts of parliament. Sikhs. That's an interesting talk because these are spaces in London that memorialize this, you know, there are spaces, but that's quite a specialized one. I'm talking to a group about trying to do something like that for them. But it's just connecting those little data sets, like you said, that your brother does, you know, and it's just trying to stick to facts and not be controversial. I kind of wanted to ask you this, that, you know, controversy will probably get you